Hi, this is Brian Pasch, and welcome to Auto Marketing Now. On today's show, we're going to talk about making an investment in education to help your digital marketing strategy flourish. Of course, we're going to have our popular email grab bag. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started with today's show. You know, dealers who reach out to me often are asking, Brian, should I be doing some of my digital marketing in-house? Should I outsource it all? What's the best hybrid combination? And on today's show, I want to talk about education and the benefits of investing in building the skills internally you need to inspect at least your marketing investments, and then possibly to be involved in some of the execution as well. So what are we waiting for? Let's talk about building the skills of your team for digital marketing. Education isn't sexy. Going to training classes or workshops, not sexy. But there's many aspects of the automotive industry that are just, well, this is part of what we do. And digital marketing is what we do. It is our number one investment outside of our fixed costs of the building and our labor. We spend a tremendous amount of money every single month advertising our business. Now, it depends if you're a rural dealer or a dealer in a very large metro market, whether you're spending $10,000 or $20,000 a month or $100,000 to $150,000 a month. But that's kind of the range that I've seen as far as marketing investments at a local franchise dealership. Think about it. What would 2% of your marketing budget do if you invested it in education? Let's just say your marketing budget was $50,000 a month. 2%, $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year. What could you do with that $12,000? Well, it's kind of amazing that for most dealers I speak with, they're still struggling with their ability to inspect and hold their marketing vendors accountable to greater performance. And there's lots of reasons why. And I'm not here to point fingers, but let's just say, and I've said this stat over and over again, that less than 5% of all franchise dealers in the United States have all 4 conversion channels working in Google Analytics to at least see which marketing investments generated a hard lead. Isn't that odd? Only a few of the dealers have invested in either the education or the discipline or to hire a consultant to get their conversion data from their website recorded properly to do multi-touch attribution. Yet, the average dealer who's spending $50,000 or $600,000 a year on marketing could benefit if they just moved 2% of their budget to education. Now, there's different ways to do education. PCG has a complete library of training courses for both marketing and sales process. But think about that. Would you invest $1,000 to put someone through a Google Analytics certification program when you're spending $600,000 a year on advertising and you're not sure what's working? Let me just tell you a few stories. I remember when Tom Moore from the Morgan Auto Group first reached out to me. This was a few years ago. And he said to me, Brian, I realize that I don't have all the skills I need to lead my group in a digital age. I can either retire and get out of the business because he's been in the business for a long time, or I can reinvent myself. He chose the second path. Over the course of a year, he took some online training courses and some one-on-one coaching. Today, he is leading his stores in a digital age. He's getting his general managers excited about understanding digital marketing. The education process continues. And now that he's managing over a dozen stores, you can understand the millions of dollars that are invested in a very competitive market like Florida. And does it make sense to just take a little sliver of that marketing budget and invest it in education? But it's even more than that. There are some great trainers on the market today. David Kane has a wonderful show here on CBT. Mark McGurran, Corey Mosley has a great show here on CBT. There's wonderful trainers. Jennifer Suzuki. Think about this. What's it worth to your business to increase your conversion percentage on leads? 2, 3, 4, 5%. Again, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on marketing, yet you don't have the right training in place for your BDC staff, where there's high turnover. You didn't invest in those online courses that they can take to build their skills. You're not inspecting that they're taking these online courses, yet every month dealers complain that they're not selling enough cars. Again, what would 2% of your marketing budget mean if you reinvested that into education? I think that you can get at least a 10x return on that investment. Why? Because it's very simple. When I train dealership staff on how to inspect Google Analytics, it's not uncommon that they identify at least 20% of their digital budget as waste or ineffective. Think about that. You invest 2% and you get 20% of your digital marketing identified as wasteful, and you can move it to things that are working better. How about for sales process? Maybe you take some classes from Corey or David Kane or Mark McGurran or Jennifer Suzuki, and your dealership is closing leads at 10%, and then you go to 15%. Do you know that over the course of the year, we're talking about millions of dollars of vehicle sales? Millions of dollars in vehicle sales, but there are some dealer principals and general managers watching today's show that don't think education really works. Oh, it does, but it doesn't work as a standalone tool. Hey, I bought these online courses, everyone go take them. Most online learning centers, like the PCG Learning Center, allows managers to get reports on how often people are logging in, how much time they spent in the learning center, and if they are testing through different certifications. I'm sure other platforms have similar tools. Management has to believe in education. Management has to see the business benefits of education. And then management needs to inspect that the training is being utilized and that they're measuring the, impact of that investment. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 2 years, I've been on this show talking to you about digital marketing. And it hit me, why am I still running into the same problems month after month of dealers calling me up and say, Brian, I got delisted from Google. Brian, I'm not selling any cars. My digital marketing doesn't seem to be working. I need some help. If it was any other area of their business, they'd go to their P&L, they'd go to their 20 group, and they would know exactly what numbers should be in range and what to do about it. But digital marketing, when things go wrong, dealers scratch their head. And here's the reason. It's lack of education. Lack of education. It would be irresponsible for me to talk about attribution and multi-touch attribution reporting and the latest in social media marketing and the latest in Google AdWords advertising if I also didn't balance that with a strong challenge to all viewers today. That you are operating in a digital age. It is no longer acceptable for you to push off 100% of your digital strategy to a third party. I'm not saying dealers should run their own AdWords. That's probably the last thing that they should be doing. But dealers could be doing more for their video marketing. They surely could do more for their review management. They surely could do more on social media within the confines of their normal business day. But they need the skills to inspect their entire digital budget. And if I'm telling you that I could pick any one of your dealerships who are watching today's show, and I could spot 20% of the budget that's wasteful or wasted, would that encourage you to invest in education? There are many great educational platforms out there, so I'm not here to talk about any single one. But you need to Partner with someone who you can trust and who is an authority. And I mentioned some great names. Outside of the PCG Education Library, obviously you have David Kane and Corey Mosley and Jennifer Suzuki and Tom Stuger, other people who are really doing a great job. Joe Webb, who is doing a great job. Invest in education. I want you to rethink for 2018 what your business could look like if you invested 2% of your marketing budget to build the skills, to inspect it, and to do more with the outcomes from those investments, meaning your phone calls, your leads, your texts and chats. It makes so much sense, yet I don't see the industry getting much better. Yeah, it's good for consultants. We'll always have a job. But in the long run, we need to get serious about building the skills internally to have better conversation with our vendors and get better results from our advertising dollars. If you have any questions specifically on education and certification programs that may work perfect for your team, just shoot me an email to the address below. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions and point you in the right direction. But under no circumstances should you leave today's show without making a commitment to take 2% of your marketing budget and invest it in education to lift the entire result, possibly 20, 30%. And that is $1 million idea that you can't ignore any longer. Thank you for watching today's show. And now for today's email grab bag question. Marketing manager wrote in to ask, Brian, I understand that there's many choices for paid online training. What's your thoughts about some of the free training like Google's Analytics and AdWords certification? Well, it's a great question. I saved it for today's show for this very simple reason. Today's show is encouraging you to rethink your education strategy because dealers still are frustrated with their inability to hold their vendors accountable for digital marketing, to inspect the results of their digital marketing, and more importantly, look at their whole sales process and make actionable changes that improve outcomes. So let me tell you that I'm Google Analytics certified and AdWords certified, and those courses are really good to give you a strong foundation. So if you take the Google Analytics certification course, just be aware that some of the questions pertain to e-commerce websites, which really doesn't apply to auto dealers because you're not using a shopping cart. And there's some other advanced topics that you may not be familiar with. But the good news is that there's also testing and coaching tools that are free online that review a lot of the questions that are on the exam and talk through the answers and why a specific answer is the right one for the test. If you invested a few days of time, you could be Google Analytics certified. So what's the problem? Well, the only problem is that these courses are generic and they apply to all industries, and Google Analytics is like the Swiss Army knife for data marketing analysis. And, well, you're not going to learn about how to track VDPs or SRPs. You're not going to learn about how to get your chat company to send in a conversion into GA or your phone tracking company to send in a conversion into GA, meaning the automotive industry has some unique challenges because our transactions are offline. E-commerce websites, well, that Google Analytics certification is pretty straightforward, because if all the transactions are done online, well, everything's pretty much visible in analytics. You get the idea? These free courses are really good to create a base, and I encourage those certifications, especially the Google AdWords certification, the Google Analytics certification, and Facebook now has some certification programs as well. Once you have that base level, then you can consider doing some automotive specific training, because that's where you're going to get into where the rubber meets the road and really learn about your specific data as it relates to automotive shopping, how to do more with that data to produce the outcomes that the business wants. I hope this answered your question, and I hope you will pursue as many free educational opportunities as you can. If you have a question and I use it on the show, I'll send you a free copy of my best-selling book, Mastering Automotive Digital Marketing, the 2017 edition, which is being used at Northwood University to train the next generation of automotive professionals. Thank you so much for watching today's show, and I'll see you next week on Auto Marketing Now.